How's it going, everybody? I'm Cherokee Ronnie. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about why the Jeep Cherokee changed the world and changed lives, including mine. Jeep Cherokee XJ changed a lot of things in this world and changed a lot of lives in our daily routine and work schedules and work life. These Jeeps have changed the world. Mailmans used them, all kinds of people used them for businesses, civilians used them. It was a great vehicle. But before we get into all that, I want to talk about where I fell in love with Jeeps and why I like them so much, and where it all started. When I was young, my dad had a Jeep truck he bought, didn't have a title or anything, and he was actually pulling these old cars out that wasn't any good, and he was junking them. Well, he'd hook chains to them, you know, had the old straight six in them, and it was I think a 4-speed on the floor, I can't remember, but he would pull these cars out and he'd be revving them up, and you know, I liked the sound of it. It was straight piped. He would pull these cars out and he would beat on this Jeep truck, and it would take the abuse. So I'm kind of like, okay, I kind of like these things. So I got a little older to where I could drive and stuff like that. And my cousins, they had Jeep Cherokees, and I seen what they were doing with them, and I'm like, all right, them seem pretty reliable. Them seem to go pretty good off-road. They're driving them to town after they beat on them. They're not breaking too much stuff. The motor seems pretty reliable. The transmission holds up. So I had influences from everywhere, but my cousin got me into it pretty good. So I bought my first Jeep, and ever since then, it has escalated from there. I've bought Jeeps, fixed them, did them as cheap as possible, fixed them, and that leads us up to the Jeep that I have now. It's a 2000 model Jeep XJ, and if you haven't seen it, go back on the channel and watch me build it. It went through several different changes to get it to where it's at now, so don't judge the build progress. You can judge it after you watch all the videos and see what we did to it. I have a little short history of how I got into Jeep Cherokees and Jeeps in general. Let's get into this video and talk about why Jeep changed the world. Y'all remember the GT40? The same man that designed that also had a hand in designing the Jeep Cherokee. A lot of people don't know that, but I think it's kind of interesting. Look it up, look up the history. It's pretty interesting on all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff people don't know about the Jeep Cherokee, and that's kind of what I'm bringing to light today and why it changed the world. And that brings us to the Jeep Cherokee itself, the way it's designed, how it was made. Believe it or not, the Jeep XJ was the first unibodied SUV. Why the Jeep XJ changed the world is because it was an SUV and it was a true 4x4. So you had a 4-door station wagon SUV, or if you're getting to your hunting spot, or going camping, going to the beach, or just going off on an old country road or a trail, the Jeep Cherokee was the one that could do it. It was just an all-around vehicle. It was the best, in my opinion, the best vehicle ever built for its time, because like I said, it had 4 doors. You can get them in 2 doors, but mostly 4 doors. It had a lot of room. You could fold the seats down. You could tow with it. You could do all these amazing things with it. Go grocery shopping. Your wife could drive it. Your kids can learn how to drive in it. They had a rough start. They had, the junky motors that first came out in them, but when they finally put the straight sixes in them, it became something so reliable and so great that at the time, nobody knew what they had. They just had something that changed the world. It was the first unibody SUV, and people were starting to buy them, and it was just an all-around awesome civilian vehicle. And that brings us to today. They are still famous. They still change people's lives. They still get you to meet new people. They still teach you how to work on your own stuff, how four-wheel drive works. It takes you places. It does all these things. And that's why I think it changed the world, and it changes people's lives, because it takes you places, it teaches you things, and it does everything. And that's what brings us to the truck-like towing with the Jeep. If you got the towing package in the Jeep, you could tow up to 5,000 pounds. And that's pretty impressive for a little unibody SUV. Now, your typical Jeep that you'll probably find today, because it's hard to find a tow packaged XJ, like the ones that I have, you can haul up to 2,000 pounds, but that's still pretty amazing with a unibody vehicle. It has a truck-like character to it. You can haul your boat, your jet skis, your trailer to mow with. It can do all that stuff. Another thing that people don't really realize, and it's just a little fun fact here, is the 4.0 liter is actually the last AMC motor ever made, because, you know, they went out of business and all that, and then Chrysler took it over, and it was a 4.0. You had the 4.0 high output, and they're known for their reliability. You just change the oil and keep going. Heck, I know some people don't even change the oil, and you can hone on these things for days, and they'll take it. You'll get the ones that can handle it here and there, some that have defaults in them, but for the most part, the 4.0 liter is a legend of an engine, and you'll never see anything like that ever again in this lifetime. Believe it or not, everybody thought the RAV4 was the first SUV in 1994, but to be honest with you, the Jeep Cherokee XJ was actually the first SUV. Believe it or not, all the other manufacturers followed suit, and that's where they got their inspiration of making their SUVs compact, little four doors and stuff like that. So you'd have the Blazers, the Broncos, and stuff like that. So I think it's funny how it just changed the world, and it gave it a different outlook on all the vehicles before the XJ. You know how everything was bigger, the four-wheel drives was like really big, and Jeep AMC combined this little SUV into a modern day fab that everybody's got to have one, but it's still that same Jeep XJ. It still does all the stuff that it did back in the day. To this day, I still believe the Jeep XJ will change people's lives and the world forever until they're no longer around. There was over 2 billion of them built, so they'll be around for a long time. Maybe not in the Rust Belt area like we're in here, but it'll always change people's lives, whether you're older or a teenager. You'll always meet new people. It will always take you places. It will always teach you responsibility. It will teach you lessons. It'll always change the world, because there's things out there that these Jeeps do to this day that probably deliver your mail. I know a person that drives a right-handed Jeep XJ, and he delivers mail. So it changes the world. It helps the world thrive. To this day, they're still driving the old Jeep XJ. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not leaving out the Wranglers or the new vehicles today. The technology is great, but I still believe the Jeep XJ changed the world and changed people's life on how it was designed, how it was made, how it was advertised, and up until this day, how you can still get them. They're a cheap 4x4. You can still do a lot of things with them. There's companies out there that's made billions of dollars off the aftermarket parts for these things, because you can do so much to them. And they're great. They're a great vehicle. If you can find one, decent price, it's not rusted out, I recommend buying one. It'll change your life. It'll make you a different person. It'll make you appreciate a vehicle, and it's fun modding them things and taking them off road. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. I'm Cherokee Ronnie. Stay dirty, my friends.